Hello, I'm Peter Ross and welcome to the Power Saving Centre. We are at 133 Musgrave Street, North Rockhampton in Queensland. Our whole objective is to try and save energy usage in people's households. I'm going to show you one of the most popular ways of doing that just in a minute. Well, here we are at the Power Saving Centre. We've got a solar power system set up in our shop here. I'm about to go over with you how it works. Now, this is a solar power panel. This is different to solar hot water. Solar hot water is a convection system like an oven. This is silicon. Now with this silicon, when light shines down on this, a photon from the sun, so obviously working just during the day, it hits one of these silicon molecules and it releases an electron. So the principle of that, making electricity, they join all these little wafers together and then that puts out a certain amount of power. In this case, it's a 250 watt panel. We don't need to worry about that too much at the moment. But from here, these are up on the roof of our shop. What happens is we've got the panels up on the roof. They come down as DC power that's getting made from this panel. It comes down through some switches that from a safety point of view, and then it comes into what they call an inverter. And this inverter, it changes the DC power or direct current that the panel has made to alternating current. And that's when you can plug your toaster into the power. From there, what it does is we'll go over to here and we'll explain it in a little bit more detail. So your panels are up on the roof and these panels producing power, I've said that there'll be 9 250 watt panels just as this example. And what that means is that let's say on a day like today, it's made 10 kilowatts of power coming off the roof, and that's DC power. This 10 kilowatts comes down here as DC, goes through the inverter, and then it changes it to AC power. Now from there, the house has got a problem because it's got the grid by your retailer or the person that's selling you electricity. It's also AC power, and you've also got your own AC power supply. So what happens, in our case, we're in Queensland, we have Ergon as our power supplier. They put a meter in here that works out which AC power supply to use. Now, this only works when the sun's shining on it, between about 8 and 5 o'clock, say, just very, very roughly. During the day, when the sun is shining on here, this power comes down. Now, the power supplier, in our case, let's call it Ergon, they make the meter always feed power to your own home first. So you always use your own electricity, which is great. You want to do that. So in an example of an average sort of a household, this is just an example here, of a household that's using 6 kilowatt hours a day between 8, or say between about 7 o'clock and about 5 o'clock, they're using 6 kilowatts of power. We've just made 10 kilowatts for the day out of our system. That 10 kilowatts comes down here through the meter, and the meter says, okay, we needed 6 out of that 10 to run the house during the day. So the surplus that's left over, they call it export. That surplus power, which is 4, that in kilowatt hours, that goes out to the power company. Now, in some cases where we are, which I'll talk about with Ergon, they give you 8 cents for it. So if it's 4 kilowatts, it's 4 times 8. So you end up with a bit of a credit out here during the day that you can use at night time. But because the power company is charging you about 29 cents for the power coming in, it's not a very good idea to try and sell them power at 8 cents. They turn around at night time and sell it back to you at 28. And in the future, it's going up and up. So it doesn't really make sense to do that after you've spent all the money in making this wonderful power. So you can do a couple of things. Number one thing, to not put a huge system in there. Because if you put in a system that's twice the size and you're making 20 kilowatts, you'll be selling out 14 kilowatts out to the grid, which, you know, it can offset your power, but it's not actually very clever. So what we would suggest at the Power Saving Centre is that you can do things that, let's say the dishwasher is on here, You put the washing machine on here at night time. You might have a swimming pool pump that runs at night time. You can move some of this into this daytime area to try and make the 6 kilowatts during the day into, say, 9 kilowatts. So the solar power curve during the day, which is showing the 10 kilowatts, instead of selling 4 out to the grid, if you can increase this hump here and this hump here by putting on, there might be a roast you're going to cook on a timer every day, or your washing machine on a timer, or dryers and things. You can swap some of that into here and try and increase that power. Now, solar power, there's just so many different sizes, different orientations on roofs, so the systems will put out different types of power. There's definitely different types of systems as well. So, you know, this is just saying it very, very briefly, and it really needs to be personalised to the individual. So what we recommend is that people come into our office, or you can email us. It's easy. You just go to powersavingcentre.com.au, email us your power bill, and we can have a look at it, have a look at your home, come out, do a home visit. One of our trained staff would come out, and we can sort of personalise and understand if there is anything that you can put in this area. Now, this is only very briefly, so yeah, and it can be complicated, so it is better to just have a one-on-one, come into the shop and have a talk about it. All right, well, thanks for your time.